What's up, y'all? It's Kabe here again. We're back with another video. You saw the thumbnail, read the title, you know what you're in for. Let's get right into this. I started this beat with the chords. I had the Prince pulled up by Cradle Audio, this preset Nervous Cousin. And I just linked down these chords. I might actually just click those chords in. As y'all can see, we're working at 56 BPM, which is quite a slow BPM. I always like to work at halftime, so all of my projects are on the 50 to 70, 80 BPM range. And I have these scores like sustaining for so long. That, and also, you know, you can see it's just a B minor and then an E minor. And what I did is I just moved the notes up or down an octave so they're closer together. And that amount of sustain on the chords, and also for these 4 notes that we have, only 2 of them actually move. The other 2 are just staying the same. That helps create this atmospheric, you know, like ethereal vibe we're going for. I just had the Prince and a J37 on that track, and it's just that. After I had those laid down, I did the bass, and for this bass, I had the Trillion pulled up. Let me see the preset. And if you want the sounds on this video and much more, go check out outofIdeas.co. This week, I've released the Legacy Bundle with all of my packs from the last couple of years with a crazy discount. So go check that out. outofIdeas.co is the first link on the description. Now, let's get back to the video. This preset, Taurus Creamy Sauce. I'm really playing with the octaves here, right? So we're starting the higher octave for the B note and then lower down an octave. Same thing with the E. It's just playing with the octaves. Because the chords are really stale, they don't change much. I have that movement with the bass. So instead of the chords changing up and having a bunch of different melodies, they just stay the same, and the bass helps with that rhythm. After we had that, I added this Synth Lead here. It's a preset from Teleton, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the Leggy Bit by Teleton. You don't actually hear this plucky melody a ton because the main melody that we have here are these vocals that I sang myself. But before I recorded those vocals, I actually went into Splice and found this vocal. And I just had that repeating. For these vocals, we only got a Pro Q3 cutting the lows and the highs, micro shift, a Wolf compressor, LFO tool. This LFO that I draw here just for a little bit of movement. So you have like this glitchy effect where it, you know, almost like randomly goes down in volume. Echo Boy, J37, and then auto filter that it's just automating for some effects later down the line. So when I put down these vocals, this is everything that we have right now. This Splice vocal actually gave me an idea to add my own. So I just pulled up this same microphone that I'm using right now, and I started to record a couple takes. And this is the vocals that I had that I ended up recording. I have a couple more here. And just a couple more right here. I started to experiment more with recording my own vocals. That's something that I don't usually do, and it helps having this microphone here. I just have it on a arm stand right on my desk. So every time that I have like a vocal idea, I just pull it up and it's already plugged into my interface and I just record it. Before recording this vocal, what I actually try to do is for like producers that are recording choirs, not even producers, artists too. Something that they usually do is draw the notes separately and just sing those notes. And that's the idea that I had at first. So what I did is I pulled up this piano, and as y'all can see, it's a keyscape, but it's 3 different tracks of keyscape, each one of just a couple of notes. And the idea that I had here is, let me draw out a choir on the piano, and I can pick these different tracks and record the vocals that I draw on that piano. But I just kind of started to like draw out more stuff. This was all drawn in. I didn't play any of this. I just drew all this stuff, and I just like to add more and more notes, and I was liking the way that it was sounding. So I just ended up leaving this as a piano. So before we had the vocals, I was actually trying to write down a choir part, and I ended up just coming up with this piano little melody here. Again, this was supposed to be like a choir piece, but I just liked the way that it was sounding, and I started to add more little embellishments like this, like these couple of notes, and I just left it as a piano. So we had this piano part here with the bass and the synth chords. For the piano, we just have a Pro Q3 cutting out the lows. As you can see, I cut out the lows of everything besides the bass. Volve compressor, again, that Volve compressor going into a glue compressor. Echo Boy, J37, and Super Plate for the reverb. And since I ended up not drawing out that choir part, I just ended up improvising, and I came up with these vocal tracks. Let me show y'all. Each one of these tracks has its own lanes. The way that I record the vocals, I just pull up my microphone, and the only thing that I had is the auto tune and little altar boy. This is the only thing that I had when I was recording the vocals. And also I just set up a quick synth here with an Echo Boy Junior and Valhalla Vintage Verb. So all of these tracks, they're just sending, you know, to this Echo Boy and Valhalla Vintage Verb. So we have the auto tune, the altar boy on the actual track, and the send with the Echo Boy, which is the delay, and Valhalla Vintage Verb, which is the reverb. So when I'm recording, I'm not hearing my voice, I'm hearing my voice through autotune and altar boy and all of those effects, the delay and the reverb, and that helps me to, you know, smooth it out a little bit. You know, recording vocals is not a simple process for me, and you know, y'all can hear I have a kind of a lower tone voice, so it's kind of difficult. So I'm using this plugins to help me out here. You know, having especially the altar boy, it adds a little bit of delay on the actual recording, so I'm not hearing my voice. And let me show y'all, like if we have this there's like a little bit of delay, which it's not great, but it works, it's whatever. And the reason why I have altar boy is because it helps me to emulate this choir type of thing. I mess with the format. So for example, this is minus 5.2, this is also minus 5.2, this is minus 1.4, this is minus 1.42, and this is minus 2.4. So it's almost like these first 2 tracks, they're one person, and like these other 2 are a different person, because like this sounds different than this. I'm talking in the same like tone, and that sounds different than this. So it's almost like I'm emulating 3 different people recording these vocals, but I'm just doing it by myself, and I'm almost like singing on that same on the same tone almost, right? And Altar Boy is helping me to do that. So I just started to record these tracks, and as I can see, each one of these tracks has like a bunch of different like track lanes, which are different like takes, like different. For example, on this one I had to record this 7 different times until I got something that I liked. And of all of this stuff that I recorded, none of this is on the project. I just used this little piece here. I recorded all of this, ended up just using this, right? Like each one of these tracks has a bunch of different like track lanes. Like this one, I just used this. But I tried a bunch of different stuff. Like this is like 10 lanes. 11, 12 lanes. So each one of these I tried a bunch of times, and I just have this like looping here. With that, I started to lay down the first like ideas, which I already played. Let me play this for y'all again. Like this was the first like parts that I was recording. And I just went for these like longer parts here. And I know I got a couple cheats with the outer boy and stuff, but for this, there's no cheats here. You need to actually try to record these vocals and like sustain these notes for longer. So like when I had this down, I recorded this other track. And then I just started to layer. And this other one. And then I had like these 5 tracks that, you know, all of them together, I think this is the best like vocals that I ever recorded. It sounds so ethereal, like it doesn't even sound like me. And again, this is just with the outer boy and the auto tune. I had the synths, so Echo Boy and Valhalla Vintage Verb. Let me open this for y'all. I just use Echo Boy Jr. because it's faster, and like I was laying out these vocals, I wanted to do everything faster. And Valhalla Vintage Verb also, like I literally didn't mess with any of these, not even like the low cut that I usually bring up. I didn't even mess with any of these. I just laid these down, and I ended up not even like changing it later because it sounded good the way that it was, so I just left it at that. After I had all those tracks, I grouped them, put it into this vocal group. Pro Q3, again, cutting the lows, and I'm cutting a little bit of highs too. Wolf compressor, Valhalla delay on top of, actually this Valhalla delay is just for this automation here. I really like this part especially, and I wanted to accentuate that with a couple tricks. So what I did here is, as you can see, like I muted the piano, so the piano is accompanying the vocals up until that point. And there's no piano anymore, so it's just the vocals. It's like the central piece. And for me to help accentuate that, I did a little bit of automation with the Valhalla delay. So as you can see, I'm bringing up the delay mix right here. Like y'all can see it right down here. To like 90%, so it's like creating this echo with all these vocals and like this ethereal thing. It sounds really, I don't know, like magical almost. Oh yeah, and I also had this auto filter on, and I'm just automating the bypass. So at the beginning it's bypassed, and I just bring it on. When you're recording vocals, you also need to keep in mind that, you know, at the end of the day, like I'm making this sample, which is gonna turn into a beat, which is gonna turn into a song. So an artist will have to hop on this, and I don't want to have like my vocals clashing with their vocals. So I'm bringing an auto filter just to carve out some space for the artist vocals. And this is pretty much it for the sample. Outside of that, I just grabbed this bass here, and I had like this little switch up. Just to change it up a little bit from the Trillium bass. I've talked about this, you know, plenty of times. Like changing up the bass in different parts helps accentuate and create a little bit of variation. And it's a really simple way to do it, and it doesn't disrupt the sample in itself. A ton is just changing the bass. So it's actually on this part that I wanted to accentuate. I'm not only muting the piano, but I'm also switching the bass to help accentuate this part, right? And I had like this texture that ever since I started using this texture, I just use it on everything. It's just a warm vinyl texture from Ivy Robbie, Drum Kit Volume 2. So this is the sample for this. After I had the melody done, I wanted to lay out some drums. And this is mostly where that PNZ vibe comes from. And now I'm gonna go into like a little bit of a defense of drum rack here. I've been using Ableton's drum rack to lay out drums for like the past week, and it's really good. I'm gonna talk about a couple of tricks that you can use on the drum rack and show y'all how I lay this this down. So the people that are used to FL Studio, you can look at this as like the channel rack on FL Studio. You can just pull up Command F and drum rack and just pull it into any MIDI track, and you have all of these pads. Like you can load up 128 sounds. Obviously not using that many, I'm just using like 10 drum sounds. And what I started to do is I went to the Ivy Robbie drum kit because I really like it, but you can go into any drum kit or even like just search up like kick or clap or whatever. The way that I'm laying these sounds out, I'm pressing B, so it pulls up the pencil, and the pencil draws out on the grid that I have here. So on Ableton, you can press Command 1 or Command 2, and then it switches to a more narrow grid or not, and you can press Command 3, and then it switches up to a triplet. So this is mostly what I'm doing. I have my thumb at the command, and I'm just pressing like 1 or 2 or 3 to pull up the triplets, and this is how I'm drawing out these patterns here. Let me play this for y'all. I would play this solo, but keep in mind, I didn't draw any of this solo. The reason why I like the channel rack, the drum rack, is because everything's laid out here, so I can create these relationships between the drum sounds really easily, almost like the FL Studio channel rack. But in here, I have a couple advantages. For example, I can change the grid, so I can do like really quick hi-hat rolls, or even you can put down a note and hold Option E, and then you can create like any set amount of notes out of a single note that you want. So this is mostly how I'm doing like hi-hat rolls and everything. So this is how I'm drawing this out. I just play it and I try different stuff. It's really easy for me to just draw stuff right here and try different bounces until I can come up with this. Y'all can hear there's a really big reverb on the snare. I really wanted like a punchy snare with a big reverb to match like the ethereal feeling of the sample. So on this, I just select the snare right here, pull the Valhalla room. It's only 10%, but it's a lot of effect. Another thing that I really like also on the drum rack on Ableton, there's this thing, and I don't know if you have this on FL, I'm really not sure, but there's this parameter right here called chance. And what this is basically you can set a chance of any of these notes to hit. Obviously, for example, my kick and my snare, those are all in 100% chance. I want them to hit every time that I put them on. But for example, I had these like little bell perk things, like, and I lay these down, but I don't want this to play all the time. So what I do is that I select these notes, press Command G, and then it groups it. I've talked about grouping on the last video, and you can group literally anything on Ableton. And I just group these two notes, and then they have one chance parameter, and I brought it down to 74%. So out of 100 times that this plays, those bells, they play 74 times. And I had this same like chance parameter here on, for example, like this row here that I had right at the end. Like, as y'all can see, like I have this down to 41%. So sometimes you play it like right now, sometimes it doesn't. So it creates this like variation, which is like beat wide. This only plays 41% of the time, so it helps create this almost like moving piece. On a couple other beats, I've been playing more of this chance parameter. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. On this one, I only used on these bells and this rolls, and the bells repeat right here. Every single thing is 100% chance, and this is how I lay down the drums for this track. I'm using the drum rack, and I've been using this a lot more. Like in all my beats, I've been using the drum rack instead of doing separate MIDI tracks for each one of the drums. It's just really good for me to see everything in one place, and I can really quickly like put down a note or remove something and create like a different bounce or variation. And on the drum track, I didn't have anything else. The only effect that I had was on that snare, the Valhalla room, but nothing affecting the whole like drum kit, right? It's just this, and this is pretty much the entire beat, the sample, the vocals, drums. And I just did quick effects on the outro. I do this a ton. I just resample the melodies and reversed it, and this is how the outro sounds. I'm just addicted to reverse and stuff, so I do this outro a ton. So this is the entire beat. I hope you'll learn something out of this. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Follow Out of Ideas on Instagram. You can find all of my packs on outofideas.co, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.